Hey Lula, it's Jeffrey. It's Uncle Jeffrey. Anyways, I am reading you tonight Peter Pan. Okay? So, here we go. So what I'm going to do this time is just read it to you and then show you the pictures because it's easier. Alright. Peter Pan waited until the children were fast asleep. Then he crept in through the window. A sparkling light followed him. It was Tinkerbell. Tinkerbell was a pixie and one of Peter Pan's best friends. Like I'm your best friend. The children woke and were delighted to see Peter Pan. Peter Pan, I knew you would come back. I saved your shadow for you, Wendy exclaimed as she ran to get her sewing basket. I am so glad you came back tonight, Wendy said, because it's my last night in the nursery. Oh, wait, hold on. Let's go backwards. Let me restart because I skipped a page. And we'll begin. The story begins on a quiet street in London at the home of the Darling family. Before bed every evening, Wendy would tell her younger brothers fantastic stories about Peter Pan's many marvelous adventures in Neverland. They believed he was real and made him a hero of all their nursery games while fighting off pirates. But that night was to be Wendy's last night in the nursery. Wendy's father had decided that the next day she should move into her room. She would have to be practical. It was time that Wendy grew up. See them all together right here? See them? But Wendy is going to have to grow up. She's moving out. So, Peter Pan waited until the children were fast asleep. Then he crept through the window. A sparkling light followed him. It was Tinkerbell. Tinkerbell was a pixie and one of Peter Pan's best friends. Kind of like I am to you. The children woke and were delighted to see Peter Pan. Wendy exclaimed as she ran to get her sewing basket. I'm so glad you came back tonight, Wendy said, because it's my last night in the nursery. No, I won't have it, Peter said. Come on. But where are we going? Asked Wendy. To Neverland. You'll never grow up there, Peter said. See? See Peter with Wendy right here? Peter with Wendy. He's grabbing her so she doesn't have to grow up anymore. But you want to grow up and not use your binky anymore, huh? Are you using your binky anymore? I hope not, because you're a big girl. Okay. So, but Peter, how do we get to Neverland? Asked Wendy. Fly, of course, he said, stretching out his arms. Wendy gasped. Fly? It's easy, Peter grinned. You think of a wonderful thought. Wendy, John, and Michael all thought very happy thoughts, but still they could not fly. Peter realized they were missing something important. Pixie dust. Pixie dust. He borrowed some from Tinkerbell. Do you know Tinkerbell's your mom's favorite Disney character? But I digress. He borrowed a little bit of dust from Tinkerbell and sprinkled a bit on each of their heads. And before they knew it, Wendy, John, and Michael were floating in the air. We can fly, shouted, we can fly. Do you see Tinkerbell, or Peter Pan, sprinkling pixie dust on the guys right there? Do you see that? Okay. Peter leaped into the windowsill. Here we go, off to Neverland. Soon they launched on a big, puffy cloud high above Neverland, and Wendy, John, and Michael began to point out places they recognized from Wendy's tells. Suddenly, Peter shouted, Look out! A heavy cannonball shot past them, nearly missing their heads. They were under attack. It was Peter's sworn enemy, the disastrous Captain Cook. Do you see when they're leaving? Right here? Okay, so Captain Cook, off to get their heads. Ready? Quick, Tink, Peter shouted. Take Wendy and the boys to the island. I'll stay here and draw Hook's fire. Tink was jealous, and Wendy and the boys, they were getting all of Peter Pan's attention, so she flew to the island very fast. So fast that the children could not keep up. Tinkerbell rushed into Hangman's Tree, the secret hideout where Peter's loyal friends, the Lost Boys, lived with Peter. The Lost Boys were wild, dressed, and like animals, but they would do anything Peter asked. Tink lied, telling them that Wendy was attacking the island, and Lost Boys scrambled to defend Peter's hideout, aiming their slingshots. They pummeled poor Wendy. Just as Wendy was about to crash, Peter Pan swooped in and caught her. Do you see where he caught her? Look, Peter caught her right there. That's a gentleman right there, I tell you. Always make sure your boyfriend catches you when you fall. I'm just saying. And make sure 5-carat Tiffany's on your finger. They plummeted poor Wendy. Just as Wendy was about to crash, Peter Pan swooped in and caught her. Peter was very angry at Tinkerbell for playing this trick on Wendy, so he banished her. But only for a week, because Tinkerbell was the most important person in the whole world to him. See, you can still love somebody and be mad at them, but you still have them back in your life, though. Life lesson to learn. Tinkerbell flew away in a huff. Yeah, and your mommy's favorite character is Tinkerbell. Wendy, John, and Michael were eager to see the island, so Peter Pan took Wendy to Mermaid Lagoon, while the Lost Boys took John and Michael to other parts of Neverland. While Wendy and Peter were talking to the mates, they saw Captain Hook row by in a boat with his first mate, Mr. Smee. They had a captive. It was Peter's friend, Princess Tiger Lily. Peter and Wendy followed the pirates to Skull Rock, where Captain Hook and Tiger Lily tied up. He was trying to make her tell him the location of Peter's secret hideout. Peter swooped in, dagger Dawn, and fought Hook, chasing him away. Then Peter and Wendy freed Tiger Lily and returned her home. But Captain Hook did not give up quite so easily. He knew that Tinkerbell was still very angry at Peter for banishing her, so Hook kidnapped Tinkerbell and tricked her into revealing Peter's hideout. Once Tink marked the spot on the map, Hook locked her up and in a lantern and on his ship. Look at that. He tricked her. You know, people will try to trick you when you're mad at somebody. Don't fall for it. I'm just telling you, Lula. Don't fall for it. But next page. The night Captain Hook, Mr. Smee, and the pirates quickly surrounded Hangman's Tree. Then when Wendy and the boys... Diesel! Shh! Diesel's barking. I'll start over. The night Captain Hook and Mr. Smee and the pirates quietly surrounded Hangman's Tree. Then when Wendy and the boys stepped outside, Hook's men grabbed them, tied them up, and took them to the ship. But Hook wasn't done just yet. He had a plan to get Peter, who was still inside Hangman's Tree. Hook carefully lowered a package into Peter's hideout with a long rope. The package was wrapped up like a present, but inside was a tricky bomb. Back on Hook's ship, the pirates celebrated their victory over Peter's Pan. Captain Hook gleefully told Wendy and the boys that if they didn't join his crew, they would have to walk the plank. Wendy refused. Peter Pan will save us, she said. Captain Hook laughed. You twirled his arms and mustache, and he told Wendy about the bomb in Peter's tree. Peter Pan will be blasted out of Neverland forever, Hook said. Cackling, no gas, Wendy. When Tinkerbell heard Hook's evil plan, she broke out of the lantern and raced to Hangman's Tree to warn Peter. But moments later, from the deck of the ship, Wendy and a huge explosion on the island. Oh no, what happened? Peter's hideout was gone. Peter's hideout was gone. Had Tink been able to save them? It was time for Wendy to walk the plank. Wendy's walking the plank. Look. It was time for Wendy to walk the plank. She's walking the plank. She bravely stepped over the edge and fell. But then the most curious thing happened. There was no splash. Hook and Smee were baffled. Was it a trick? Was it a curse? No, it was Peter Pan, Tinkerbell, and Peter has saved Wendy. Peter Pan flew Wendy to safety at the top of the ship. Then he confronted Hook. Said, "You're a bad guy, Hook. I'm confronting you." Sometimes you have to stand up for yourself, honey bun. sometimes, but never with violence. But sometimes you have to stand up for yourself. This time, you've gone too far, Hook, Peter said, pulling out his dagger. Hook drew his sword, and then Peter began to duel. Hook thrust, swiped, and stabbed his sword, but Peter Pan flew away, just out of Hook's reach. Fly, fly, you coward, Hook snarled. You wouldn't dare fight old Hook man to man. Oh, but would he, though? But would he? Nobody calls Pan a coward and lives. I'll fight you man to man, said Peter, with one hand behind my back. They clashed on the tall mast of the ship. Peter kept his word and did not fly away. Hook disarmed him, and just then it seemed like Peter Pan was doomed. He yanked the ship's flag over Hook's head and took away his sword. Do you see them dueling right there, honey bun? But don't ever use swords. This is not a good thing. Use your words. You're smart. Like we said, grow up to be Democrat and always be happy. You're mine, Hook, Peter said. Captain Hook and the pirates fled from the ship, never to be seen again. Can you believe? Peter Pan took Hook's sword and they fled from the ship, never to be seen again. Hooray! Hooray, Captain Pan! For Captain Pan! Winnie the boys cheered. Tinker Bell sprinkled pixie dust all over the pirate ship, and it began to float higher and higher into the sky. Finally, when the ship was among the clouds, Peter set a course for London. When Wendy woke up with the windowsill, she noticed that they were back home in the nursery and with her parents. They paused to look up into the night sky to see a ship made out of clouds. I have the strangest feeling I've seen that ship before, a long, long time ago. When I was very young, Mr. Starling said he realized Wendy didn't need to grow up just yet. And honey bunny, don't grow up just yet. You be the sweet little girl you are. I love you.